There's just a special feel about being downtown.
And this block is special.
Yeah.
I mean, there's beautiful homes on both sides of the block. The people are fabulous neighbors. You know, we all get along, but we don't bother each other, but we're here. And when we're needed, we bond together.
Well, I'm Ken Moore, Mayor of Franklin, Tennessee, and I'm proud to be with my lovely wife, Linda, who is
The First Lady of Franklin, Tennessee, married to Ken Moore.
We're proud to live in downtown Franklin on 3rd Avenue South in a home that was built in 1898. I'm a Tennessean by birth, and I was born in East Tennessee and then grew up primarily in Middle Tennessee. In 2004, whenever I was retiring, and I told Linda, I says, I'm going to retire, and she says, well, I'm moving back home. And I kind of looked at her, I said, what are you talking about? And she says, I'm moving back to Franklin. So I didn't really have to hesitate much because I knew how important that was to Linda, because her whole life she had talked about how special Franklin was to her as she grew up. And so I said, well, okay, go up there and look at some houses. We were kind of living back and forth. You know, I'd be down in Columbia, I'd be up here, we were back and forth, and pretty soon Linda was more in Franklin than she was in Columbia, and so I could see the handwriting on the wall. It was important for us to go ahead and just sell out in Columbia and settle in Franklin. I never really dreamed of running for office. But one day I was sitting with a friend at breakfast, and he said, yeah, they're having an alderman's race here in Franklin. You ought to run. And stupidly I said, well, I think I will. Just one of those instantaneous responses. And so I ended up being in a field of 14 candidates for 4 spots. And I ended up being the top vote getter. And probably a lot of it was because of Linda and her relationships and the people that she introduced me to here in Franklin. I liked being an alderman. It was a lot of learning, a lot of interaction with other people. And I had people say, well, you ought to run for mayor. And my comment was always, well, we've got a good mayor. And when he resigned to become commissioner in Tennessee Department of Transportation, I became mayor, and so immediately the question was, you going to run for alderman? I said, no, I'm running for mayor. So I've been fortunate enough to be elected 3 times. I'm currently in my 3rd term, and I've had no opponent the past 2 times, and it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of learning, it's a great experience to interact with people and also make a difference in our community for the future.
I was actually born in Franklin. My mother was born in Franklin. Franklin has my heart, as Ken said, and I went to Franklin High School, had a wonderful life growing up. I wouldn't change, I would go back and relive my life in a minute. Franklin was so simple back then. You know, you didn't really lock your doors. I had a horse, and I'm a big horse person, and I can remember my mother packing my lunch, and I would take off and be gone all day. I just had to be back by the end of the day, and I'd go down country roads, and back then you could go through farmlands and the farmers didn't care as long as you lock the gate back behind you. So I would get on my horse and go over there and ride back and forth from the Harlandale barn all the way down to the Harpeth River. Then Harlandale, Midnight Sun, he was there when I was growing up, and he was retired, and he was a stud horse. And I would go in, and he was the sweetest, gentlest horse, and he felt like velvet. His coat was jet black. You know, they didn't let him out. They kept a blanket over him. But I think my only regret about that is they offered one day would you like to ride him? And I thought, oh no, I'm not good enough to get on Midnight Sun. So I I guess I was a little shy too about doing it because this was in my early teenage years. But I just have the fondest memories. So many people think, are unhappy with the change of Franklin, and I'm really happy with it because even though it was a wonderful place as a child to grow up, I wouldn't have wanted to come back to the smallness of the Franklin I grew up in.
Linda and I both feel that Harlansdale is such an important asset in our community. 200 acres in the center of the town. New York City's got a big Central Park. Well, I call this our Central Park, and the fact that it's preserved now, it's in the land trust, and it's got historic structures on it. The barn on the property is on the National Historic Registry. The one that we're working with them on now is the Hayes House, and the Hayes are a significant part of Harlansdale history, and the vision is that Friends of Franklin Parks is going to raise enough money to start this $700,000 renovation of this home so it can again be used for education for kids about what farm life is like. It's going to be a place where you can go in and rent the facility. It'll be a place where community gatherings, small community gatherings can occur, and again, we're helping them raise money for that. So that's one of several things we're involved with right now.
And one more thing about Harlansdale, Midnight he's buried out there. He's got a marker.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And now I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
It's teary when you go out there.
Well, it's easy to get emotional about some of the things we love.
The Franklin Theater. That was I was there all the time because my uncle managed it. I saw every movie. My aunt ran the concession, so I had popcorn, Coke, and saw all the movies. And I think that's why today I love movies.
The community stepped up in 2008 during the recession and raised the millions of dollars necessary to not only buy the theater, but to renovate the theater. And we've had some great philanthropic efforts by citizens in our community to do that. So that's an amazing story, that theater was truly saved in one of the darkest financial times in a long time, and we were part of it. We helped do it, and so something we both agreed on, and certainly with Linda's history with the theater, that was important. Well, one of the smartest moves I've ever made was to listen to my wife, and Linda and I were enjoying the brownstones. It was a pretty good deal for me. There's no yard, nothing I needed to do outside except kind of keep my office picked up and clean, and so it was a good situation. But Linda's a dog person, an animal person, and she said, I want to get another German Shepherd. This would be Linda's fifth one. And I said, well, okay, I guess let's look and see what's available. Well, this house was for sale. It had been on the market for some time, and I don't know why it wasn't selling. I looked around and I told the realtor, I said, well, this is a great place, but too much work for me. I'm not interested. And so a couple of weeks later, Linda says, well, let's go back and look at it again. I said, okay, let's go back and look again. And so we gradually both started sharing the vision rather than two separate visions, that this could be a place where we could move and Linda could have her German Shepherd. So we ended up buying the house and spent about 6 months renovating it, and kind of everything, like plumbing and electrical and duct work. We replaced all that. There were floors that had different elevations that were sagging. We took care of that. The actual original house is still pretty much like it was. The bedroom had been chopped up a little bit, and so we took it back to its original size. It had an interesting...
Well, we basically gutted the
the back half we gutted.
The addition, what had been added on, we gutted it and took it down to the floor joists.
Yeah, but the front portion of the house is pretty much like we think like it was whenever it was built. Probably one of the most fun things we did was adding the sun porch. It was a screen porch, and we turned it into a sun porch. We enclosed it because I got tired and Linda got tired of cleaning up all the pollen in the spring of the year. So that's turned into a space where we spend a lot of time. And
plus, we wanted to use it 12 months out of the year, and we've heated it, and the fireplace out there works. And I love having the wood burning fireplace. Well, I was happy that we gutted all the addition. Like Ken said, there were some, ups and downs. Room had been added. Maybe there was a step down. So we gutted it and made it all one level, and rearranged the walls. We rearranged the kitchen. I mean, it's a modern kitchen today. We now have a his and her bathroom, where they had in one of the additions they had a tiny little bedroom that was just very, very small. So we gutted it all the way around and have the 2 bathrooms back there and the large living den area with the kitchen. And then you go out to the sunroom, and we opened that doorway up, took it down, and it just all flows now. And like Ken said, we have had many, many parties, fundraisers and events here to help candidates, and people love coming here because the whole house flows. Yeah, we have these pocket doors. Yeah, here we go. That's original, of course.
Yeah.
They're neat. The doorbell and the fireplace in the library.
And during the World Wars, there was a need for iron to build ships and guns and whatever they were building. So a lot of the homes, those type things were taken out of them. In fact, there's no original one for any of the fireplaces except for the one in the what we call the library. And so we think that one is original to the house, and probably they felt like when they gave all the iron out, all the other ones, that they'd at least keep one.
So my understanding, they gave it. This was their way of helping
the war effort.
Mm-hmm. War effort.
Yeah.
You cannot tell the tale of 230 3rd Avenue South without sharing the story of Walter Aiken Roberts. Mr. Roberts was the original owner of the home and famous for being the developer of Main Street, Franklin. Listen now as Linda reads the historical marker erected in his honor.
Walter Aiken Roberts was born in 1865 and he died in 1948. He married Sally McGavock Ewing Roberts at the Methodist Church in Franklin, and they were blessed with 3 daughters. Sally was artistic and a romantic, and Walter was an entrepreneur and visualized the big picture in both his plans and actions. Visualizing Franklin's bright future, Mr. Roberts invested heavily in downtown Franklin and specifically on Main Street, described by a Franklin mayor as one of the most famous and shortest main streets in America. At one time, Mr. Roberts owned 6 buildings in downtown Franklin, in addition to other real estate throughout Franklin. Visualizing Franklin's permanent place in history and the need to preserve its historical past from commercial development, in 1948, prior to his death, Mr. Roberts donated the 9.7-acre Winstead Hill command post for the CSA forces during the 1864 Battle of Franklin to the United Daughters of the Confederacy. It was the first historical preservation action taken to assure future generations would know the historical significance of the Battle of Franklin. In 2013, the Roberts Moore House, our home, was selected as the overall winner of the Rehabilitation Residential Award by the Heritage Foundation of Franklin and Williamson County.
Well, I think one of Franklin's main attractions is just its Main Street.
I just always want to live downtown Franklin.
And the fact that it just has such a special feel. Certainly the shops add to that, the restaurants add to that, but just there's some special feeling about being downtown with the historic architecture and things, and that's what draws so many people here. Certainly there's a lot of other choices, from live music to, we have a significant history of Civil War history with the Battle of Franklin, and how that was a pivotal point during the Civil War. It was a horrible experience for the town because over 10,000 soldiers were injured or killed, and every house in Franklin was a hospital at that time.
Well, the one next door, the house next door was a hospital.
And the fact that the number of injured were greater than the number of people that lived in the city was pretty significant. So there were people from outside that came in to help. So, we're in the process now of really trying to tell more of the story of Franklin. Certainly we've focused on the battle and reclaiming the battlefield, which is very, very important. But we're telling more of the story when we talk about the fuller story. When I say the fuller story, I'm talking about things that happen in our city that maybe we weren't very proud of, but there's positive things like slaves walking into the historic courthouse and coming out as free men and becoming U.S. colored troops. Or the stories of people like A.N.C. Williams, born a slave, became free man, had a store on Main Street for over 60 years. So Franklin's always been a very progressive community that wanted to embrace everybody that lived here. And we're trying to continue to embrace that concept that everybody that wants to live in Franklin can live in Franklin and be welcome here.
You're my own hometown staycation, America's Main Street destination, a balloon ride in the sky, historic daytime strolls that move